And we welcome you into another episode of the Marriage Talk podcast. It is great to have you with us. Thanks for subscribing and hopefully sharing the link with other couples in your life. Bill Hobson here, and I am joined as always by Jay and Laura Laffoon. They are fresh back from warmth in the Caribbean and an effortless journey home. So they're fresh as a daisy. Works out wonderfully well. And today we're going to focus on the impact of laughter and how it can actually add some robustness and some more enjoyment to your relationships. And it sounds like a strange topic to tackle, Jay and Laura, but I know you've studied it over the years, and there's something very real to all of this discussion, right?
Well, it's funny because we did just get back from the Caribbean. We were complaining because we had a 16-hour travel day home to go 1,300 miles. And I said to Laura, I've got to keep reminding myself, 200 years ago, 1,300 miles would have taken half a year and someone would have died. I mean, it's that simple, I mean, dysentery, animals, whatever. So keeping your sense of humor, even in the midst of all sorts of trials and troubles in marriage, is not being shallow. It's reflecting the joy of the Lord. That's really what we want to do, is reflect the joy of the Lord. And humor is a great way to do that. And so we try to, if we can't be humorous ourselves, at least inject some humor into our marriage from time to time.
Something will always happen to us that'll cause laughter. So
like my wife's 8
Yeah,
packs a day
my
smoking
voice right now.
It's kind of like Marge Simpson's sisters.
There you
Right now.
go.
Lovely.
Thelma,
Cute.
whatever. By the way, Jay, since we're talking laughter, you've got to share the story of your trip home when you got back to your car.
Yes.
Because
Stuffed your
as if
cat.
as if the delays and the journey isn't enough, you still got to drive. I'm assuming this is from Detroit to your home.
Which is 2 hours on a
Go
good
ahead,
night.
take it from here.
So we got off the boat at 9 a.m. in the morning. Our flight was not delayed at 9 a.m., but by the time we got to the airport, it was delayed, and then it was delayed, and then it was delayed, 4 hours delayed. And we're fine with that because of the big
Because we had a
snowstorm
big snowstorm in Michigan.
in Michigan. And we understood that. We've traveled enough to know that delays are part of the game. Well, we get back into Detroit, which we always feel like, oh, now all I gotta do is drive home, piece of cake. And I'm scraping the snow and the ice off of the windshield that had accumulated while we were gone with the big snow. And all of a sudden I hit something hard, and I realized instantly that I had just busted the windshield wiper off of the driver's side of the window. So it can only happen to us. We're here. The wind chill was like 7 or 8 below. I'm trying to fix this windshield wiper, and I can't even feel my fingers.
Because we have no gloves and no coat. Because when we left town, it was warm
It was
here. in
fine.
Michigan.
That's right. And so finally, we wiped off the windshield as best we could. Right around the corner from where we parked, there's a gas station. I went in, I got some duct tape. I wrapped the duct tape around the windshield wiper and the little arm, and we took the extra pieces and we put them in the car, and just prayed, Lord, do not let us have slush. Lord, please do. And 4 hours later, a 2-hour trip normally, 4 hours later, we got home and we only had one moment of slush. And after that, it was all clear.
Basically, it was if he couldn't see, then he would say, "So what do you see outside your side of the windshield?"
It's called
What's
teamwork.
it like over your way, hon?
How long did it take, Jay, before the tension came out of your shoulders from white knuckle driving and leaning out the window trying to see what was?
That was Sunday.
Morning, today's
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah, but it's still there. It's no,
Oh,
I will tell you that my hands from gripping that steering wheel are still sore today. But that could also be my age. But yeah, it was it was an adventure. We got home, and it was one of those really deep breaths of thank you, Lord, for getting us home safely, because we really didn't drive very safely. But it was, again, you find the humor. We woke up the next day and had lunch with my mom and my sister, and just recounted how much fun that trip home was.
depending on how much time people spend on social media, at some point you'll probably run into video clips of people not finding the humor in any sort of travel hiccup, and they're throwing things and they're screaming at the poor gate agent or whatever. And of course, these days, everything's being recorded, and they end up looking just they just look terrible when they do this. And maybe they don't care, but whenever I see it, I think, man, if your kids or your grandkids ever watch this, if they ever did that, you would be appalled. What's the key to maintaining the humor side, and maybe looking for some material or some kind, or just realizing that there are bigger problems in life?
Well, it's funny because when along that line, the first couple hours on a cruise ship are pandemonium. They're chaos. It's 4,000 people trying to find their way on a boat they've never been on, with elevators that are chock full of people and stairwells that are crammed. And I tend to be observant during these times because people's best and worst come out. And we haven't even set sail yet. And one mother was like, "Young man, we got this trip." And I'm like, "Lady, oh my goodness, I'm sure he did something. I'm sure the child did something that was not proper, whatever. But this is the first day of your happy cruise, you paid a lot of money to be going on this." And I think one of the keys is to realize God is huge. You remember the old Saturday Night Live Chevy Chase? I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. God's God and we're not, and he looks down at us and the things we get upset about and the things we fret over and the things we get anxiety over. And some of those are real, but some of them, we're on a cruise boat, lady. I mean, you're about to set sail to the Caribbean and have everything at your fingertips, food, drink, whatever you want. And we're going to some fabulous places. Just relax and enjoy the moment, even though your luggage probably isn't here yet, whatever that is.
Now, just to be totally honest, Jay has to tell himself that, because when there's travel delays, he's not a happy camper. And my comment is always, what are you going to do about it? The lady at the desk can't do anything about it. The pilot can't do anything about it. It just is what it is. And he's learned over the years that, you just got to sit and relax. Let's go find a place to sit down. And we sat in a Outback Steakhouse for like 3 hours because it's like,
more water, please.
we can sit here. I'll take some French fries now. It is what it is.
Yes, we had a progressive dinner.
They like it when you just linger. They love
when you get upset about that stuff, you just cause your own self anxiety and stomach and knots. It's not, you're only hurting yourself.
So we want to acknowledge that there are things that matter, very important things that matter in marriage. But one of the things that matters in marriage is to keep your sense of humor. To keep your sense of humor in that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And we need to understand that all good things come from him. Sure. And so to laugh every once in a while, it's easier for some couples than for others. But for us, it's kind of a daily delight.
It's a natural instinct.
Because I'm a dork, so I do dorky things.
It was just like with the windshield wiper. Of course that happened. That's Jay and tools and stuff.
Yeah, right about the time when you're wrapping the third loop of duct tape around, you gotta laugh, even though you can't feel your fingers, because all of a sudden you've become the Beverly Hillbillies and you're just kind of schlepping this thing together. I love to laugh. There are two angles to that. Number one, when something tickles me, man, I'm all in. We went to see Brian Regan a couple of weeks ago over in Grand Rapids, and he's clean and he's fantastic and had the whole family there. It was wonderful. And then from a speaker standpoint, and you both know this, you get a charge out of leading people to laughter.
Yep.
And probably it releases something back in you as the speaker, but clearly it releases chemically and emotionally something within those audience members who in many cases, they haven't maybe laughed in quite some time. And I'm curious if you're trying to kind of put some science to it all. What good does laughter do for an individual and for couples?
Well, there's a passage of scripture that says laughter does like good medicine. And what that tells us is that laughter can change the chemistry within you. And I can remember when my dad, it was probably the day or two before he died. I'm not trying to be funny. That's the truth. But my sister and I were leaving for Florida and my dad was chemically imbalanced. He was on so much medication that it made him a little crazy. It made him a lot crazy, actually. He would sit underneath a blanket all day long. until it was time to watch the evening news, and then the blanket would come off. He was just loopy. He just wasn't right in his mind. And the doctors had said it was because he was chemically imbalanced. The chemicals, the drugs, the medication had changed the chemistry in his body. And so when I look at that passage of scripture that says laughter does like good medicine, that means that laughter it is a natural opiate. When you laugh, your body releases endorphins, which is a natural opiate, and it changes the chemistry in your body, and thus changes many other things.
And I think one of the things that we have found in relationships is that I don't know that there's anything more attractive, and I'm not talking sexually, I'm just talking that drawing two people together than to hear your spouse laugh. When you hear your spouse laugh, there's something about it that triggers in your mind, yes, this is the person I love. And right now that person is having a wonderful time and their life is being changed because they're laughing. And so the chemistry between a husband and wife, when you laugh together, it is absolutely amazing. I want to echo what Laura said, that that's why when you go to a comedy concert and you laugh and you laugh and you laugh, you're exhausted afterwards.
Really are.
Because you really are, because your body has gone through all this change and had all these endorphins and the belly laughs and the chuckles and the different types of laugh. I'll never forget, never in my life will I forget, we were doing one of our date nights. And our date nights, we do 45 minutes of music and comedy. We take a break and then we deliver biblical truth with a little comedy sprinkled in. And at intermission, we had a couple come up to us. They had to be in their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, you don't know how much we needed this. And we're like, praise the Lord. And they said, can we tell you why? And we're like, sure. They said 6 months ago, our adult son committed suicide.
Ooh.
And we have not laughed since. But we came here tonight asking the Lord to give us some joy. And it's changed us. And those are the kind of things. Life is hard. I mean, my goodness, is life hard. But when you can laugh in the midst of those trials, it will change your chemistry, and that will change not only you personally, but your relationship with your spouse.
I look back in chapters of our lives, and I remember some of those moments that you very easily could have been crushed in, but the Lord brings some humor out of it. And to this day, now, I don't remember, 25-ish years later, maybe more, our family still tells the story of my grandmother, who in her very later stages was suffering from Alzheimer's and pretty much always thought we were out to kidnap her, right? And we all went to, for those of you listening from other parts of the country, in the middle of Michigan, in a small German town called Frankenmuth, there are a pair of restaurants that offer world-famous chicken dinners. We took my grandmother to the one called the Bavarian Inn. And Grandma's mind had gotten to the point where it never told her body that she was full.
Oh,
My grandma weighed about 80 something pounds. My left leg was like her size. And so the waitress comes and she says very, very kindly, "Oh, look at that. She is so adorable. I'm just going to charge her the children's rate." And we just thought, "Oh, you're going to lose money on grandma." So we get done with eating. I wore sweats for the occasion because I knew it was coming. And I'm walking her arm in arm down the ramp at the back of the restaurant where a car was being pulled around to get her. And she stops. She doesn't know who I am. And she stops and she looks up at me and she says, "Young man, what does a body have to do to get some food around here?" And I'm telling you, she had eaten me under the table. And as recently as last week, that story came up when we were with some family.
Sure.
And I'm so thankful for it because
Yep.
it could have gone the other route, where we all would have just been devastated, like, well, this is clearly the sign that the end is near. I'm so thankful for those little snapshots of joy. We were just in our small group with our church, and we were watching a video by Francis Chan. And at the end of it, he just asked the question, "Are you known for having joy? And if not, what are you known for?"
Mm,
And it's really stuck with me quite a bit. I'm not sure that I'm known for that. I don't know what people would describe or how I'm known. But his point was, are you so filled with the joy of the Lord because he has provided that for us if we will just accept it. And
yep.
I can't imagine how many couples are coming to your events or going into professional counseling or coaching that just need to be reminded of the joy part of life, because there's enough drudgery out there. You don't have to search for it.
Right.
You just turn on the news. So how can we help couples locate the joy that they might have misplaced?
I think you do have to look for it. It's like a butterfly collector. A butterfly collector will find multiple butterflies that we never knew existed. Why? Because he's looking for those butterflies. And I think the joy of the Lord comes in a number of places. I think it comes from his word. And I don't want that to sound cliche. There's power in the word of God. I think it comes from other believers. My father, it's interesting that you mentioned your grandmother, because my father, he never met a stranger. And everyone that he touched, he had a tremendous impact on their life, even if it was just in passing. We had dinner the other night with a couple we had never been out to dinner with before. We had just met them. He's a local pastor and his wife. And she said, "It was your dad, Jim LaFoon?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "The most amazing man I've ever met." And I'm like, that's what they said about my dad all the time, that he was just so caring and attentive. And so my dad told me, you will become the people you hang around and the books you read. If you want to be joy filled, find other people that are joy filled, and they'll rub off on you in a very positive way. And that's why people talk about church and, oh, church. We got church is that 20 minutes before and 20 minutes after the service, where we get to interact with people and connect with people who are joy filled or are spirit filled, or whatever it is that God's calling you to be right now. So I would say his word, his people, and then, for lack of a better, turn on a silly sitcom, for crying out loud, or subscribe to a joke of the day email. I'm part of a dad joke group on Facebook, and Laura hates it, but I love it because
He's sitting over on his iPad and he'll just start laughing, and he'll just keep laughing. I'm like, what joke is it now? And he goes, "Do you really want to know?" I'm like, "Nope, it's your dad jokes." "Nope, I do not want to know."
For example, what do you call a lazy baby kangaroo?
I do not know.
A pouch potato.
Oh man, that is bad.
Yeah, it's like
See,
that
you're laughing
all
though.
the
You're
time.
laughing.
But it makes him laugh. And then when he says it, it makes me, even though I don't want to laugh, because it's a stupid joke.
Yeah.
You know what's
I-
funny is everybody has their own avenue to all of this. I hope, never forget the joy I got and still do from watching my dad laugh at Home Alone.
Yeah.
It's on a million times every Christmas. He never remembers. So he's always watching, and the physical comedy of that, it just
Yep.
kills him. And I just sit there across the living room. I just did this a few weeks ago when they were back in Michigan. I was like, he's fully enjoying this stuff. I mean, otherwise I would not even keep the movie on. I'm more of a guy who's into the word craftsmanship of a great comedy routine. Stephen Wright puts me
Yep.
under the table every time. I remember the first time I went to see him, all I had in my possession, in my hands, was the ticket stub from the show. And I borrowed a pen, and I was trying in microscopic font to write down some of these one-liners. And of course, that's impossible. My handwriting is bad, and it was just coming one after another. And ever since then, I have admired how they literally, as a science, can craft and test and tweak these different words. So that's kind of what gets me
Yep.
going.
Yeah.
My wife just loves off the cuff little things that maybe I might say or that our grandson will do, where you just look across the room and you just burst into laughter.
Yep.
I guess the important point that I'm trying to make is, if you allow yourself to be open to that, if you say, "Lord, would you just give me something to laugh at today?" I'm thinking he will.
Mhm.
Basically, just undress and look in the mirror. I mean, that for me, that's laughter enough. I can promise you that.
But laughter is really important in your marriage. Not only does it change your chemistry, but all of these things that we've talked about, you know, Bill, when you said your grandma, you guys could have gotten really sad and said, you know, this is a sign that it's getting close to the end, but instead you remember that laughter and how funny it was. It's because it changed your perspective. You know, yeah, we could have been sad that it was getting towards the end, but at the same time, it was really funny. And it was something that we can look back on and continues to bring us joy. And it changes your perspective as you're in the middle of these situations, and it changes your attitude. You know, one of the things that has annoyed me about Jay from the very beginning and continues
One
to
of the 8,000 things
is
that annoy her.
when we get into a disagreement or we get into an argument, he does what he's doing right there. You know, he'll start and at first I'm like, is he laughing at me? Am I doing something? And sometimes yes, but he just smiles. And when he smiles and laughs, it changes. I start laughing because then I realize whatever I'm upset about 9 times out of 10 is not something that's, you know, life changing. It's probably the way he put the dishes in the dishwasher, or he didn't close a cabinet, or whatever it might be. And it changes my attitude then when I see that he's got a smile on his face, or he's laughing, not always at me, but sometimes it is at me because I'm being so
Always
ridiculous.
laughing with her.
Yeah. But it's so important in your marriage to have that laughter, because it does change the way you look at things and it changes your attitude.
Well, and a great example of this changing your attitude and changing your perspective. My mother in August, a few months ago, was diagnosed with stage 4 uterine cancer. And when the oncologist came in to deliver the news that
Very
the very serious, and obviously because he deals with serious things. My mom's one of the funniest people I know. She's absolutely hilarious. But mostly it's because her brain just never stops. And so whatever she's thinking comes out of her head. And the oncologist came in and said, Mrs. LaFoon, I'm sorry to tell you, you do have stage 4, and it will be what kills you. And she looked at him and she said, so you're telling me I'm a goner? And all of us in the room, we just cracked up because that was mom being mom. But this doctor, he freaked out because he was like, no one's ever talked like that before. Well, my mom knows and loves Jesus. She's ready to, you know, if it's time to go, it's time to go. But just that her perspective and her attitude was, if I'm a goner, if you're telling me I'm a goner, I'm a goner. You know, God's in control. There's nothing I can do about it. And so I think oftentimes we can use laughter as a reset. You know what I'm saying? To just say, okay, we've been upset with each other. We realize now it's over stuff that really doesn't matter. Let's find the humor in this and change our attitude and our perspective towards one another.
And thus it allows laughter and joy to change your heart. You know, when you're in the midst of those crises or whatever it might be, allowing some laughter and some fun and some, you know, just some, I need a break from this today. I need to go do something different. Part of that is just the joy that you find in the Lord, and it changes your heart.
There's a pretty famous scene in one episode of Seinfeld where Jerry is sent to the hospital to make the patient laugh. It's a common friend of all of theirs. And like, he really just needs to laugh. He's gotten some bad news, and Jerry goes in and he bombs. The guy's just sitting there staring at him. He's getting worse. He's getting more and more upset. Jerry's flop sweating. He can't get anything to go. And it reminds me, this doesn't sound like a very nice segue, but it reminds me of a relative of mine who I shall not name in case she happens to be listening to this. But it's an aunt of mine who I have long described as the least joyful, most miserable believer that I've ever come in contact with. I wondered if back in Sunday school, if they never taught her the joy of the Lord is my strength, he fills me with living laughter or whatever, because she's just angry all the time. I used to say that if Ed McMahon showed up on her porch with that giant novelty check from Publishers Clearinghouse, she would yell at him that it was too early. And it makes me sad when people forfeit laughter, they forfeit joy, and everything seems to be, they are the victim. They are on the receiving end of every injustice or every malfeasance and every negative thing that the world has going, even if it has nothing to do with them. They are just burdened and unable to just take a deep breath, and be joyful for anything. And I know what that's done in the particular relationship with this relative of mine. And I would have to think that as you two have encountered couples by the thousands over the years, maybe you've had to coach somebody to remind them that you can't just go around in abject misery all the time.
Because the problem is when you refuse to seek the joy of the Lord, when you are miserable all the time, the main person that you are causing damage to is yourself. Because no one's going to want to be around you. No one's going to want that influence in their life. And, a lot of people, that negative, no, it's an influence. It's not negative energy. That's an influence on your life that you just don't want to be around. I don't like to be around negative people because they don't share my value of the Lord. It's the Lord has saved us. We're going to heaven. This is one of the perspectives that I have. If I love Jesus and I'm going to heaven, then earth is as bad as it will ever get. This is as bad as it'll ever get. It will never get any worse than it. Yes, it can be very bad here on earth. Yes, there can lots of troubles here on earth, but it's as bad as it gets. If I don't know Jesus and I'm going to hell, this is as good as it gets.
Hmm.
And this ain't very good if this is as good as it gets. And so, that kind of a perspective of seeking the Lord, seeking that joy, seeking that, even when, yes, life has been hard, things have not been fair. I'm sure there's a reason that your relative is an angry, upset person, but let's get past that and realize that there's a lot of life to be had and a lot of joy to be found.
Yeah. Folks, we would love to hear from you. Maybe some of your favorite movies or shows, or just methods for finding laughter. Maybe some of your favorite jokes or whatever brings you joy and brings a smile to your face. You can reach out to us on our Facebook page. You can reach out to us through the website. You can go to jayandlaura.com. Let's have a little feedback, and maybe if we get some responses in, we'll be able to share some of those with you on future episodes. We'd love to step up the interaction level with our audience a little bit. And we want you to laugh. Jay and Laura have lots of resources available that can help you with that. So why don't you bring us home, Jay and Laura, with kind of a reminder of what's out there from your library that might help some in our audience.
You bet. They can go to jayandlaura.com, jayandlaura.com. We have devotionals. We have books that are teaching books. We've got video curriculum, all sorts of things, ranging from making the most of a messy marriage, where we talk about how messy we are, to the ultimate date night, where we create some date nights for you and your spouse to go out and enjoy, and a lot of other things in between. So
And
Jay,
all of them are written in our humor and our style, which is to make your marriage a celebration. So it's all it's truth, but it's all sprinkled in with humor.
And is there any video of the duct taped windshield wiper?
no, thank God she didn't take the video.
Oh, Laura, come on.
That would have been
I
good.
For a
should've.
reason.
I should have.
Oh, for a reason.
That's
I
right.
know.
All right,
I
folks.
was using the phone to try and figure out how to put a wiper blade on.
Thanks for listening, folks. Check us out on marriagetalk.org and on Facebook, and we'll look forward to chatting with you again next week on Marriage Talk.